All right. Hello, hello.
Yes.
Much better.
Okay.
Much. Oh man, how you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. It's a nice day. I've been waiting for this podcast to talk to you. You know, reason being, I typically would say, well, how do I get out of debt? People want to know, how do you get out of debt? But you have a great perspective. You have a, let's get out of debt and then let's create some wealth, right? Let's create some lasting wealth. In these day and ages, I think that is the bigger topic. You know what I mean? Not just get out of debt, but as prices begin to climb, as things begin to happen, all this stuff, we're going to really need to be able to have some savings and definitely have the ability to be able to make some money. So and have some money saved up. So I was really interested and excited to have this conversation. So hopefully you're ready to give us some tips. What do you think about that?
Oh, for sure. I'm always ready to talk.
I know that's all right. I've seen a few of your interviews, so I know I'm ready. Look, I went back to elementary school, got my little
Oh, not with the composition notebook.
yeah. That's what I do. That's what I do.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Where are you calling in from? Just curious.
Virginia.
Oh, what
In the
part?
Virginia Beach area.
Okay. Yeah, I'm from Maryland myself.
Ooh.
But I'm in California. I've been here for a
Oh.
while, a few years. I know you say, but the weather is so amazing.
It is, but y'all also have them wildfires. So,
Yeah. LA
yeah.
got really devastated up in that area this year. It's been pretty bad. Um, yeah, we do have those, and then we have the earthquakes that seem to have taken a back seat to that. So I'm trying to make my exit plan. So don't you worry, I'll be on the East Coast
I'm back
soon.
to the DMV.
I know that's right. All right, let me get my water over here real quick with me. All right, so do you have any questions before we get started?
No.
I mean, we already started, but I just I just wanted to ask that question. Now we good to go? All
Yeah, we're good.
right. All right, let's get to it.
When you look back in hindsight, everything is 2020. In hindsight, we make mistakes, we're learning from it. In hindsight, be yesterday and your tomorrow. In hindsight, it's so much clearer now.
What if the stress of debt wasn't just a financial burden, but a roadblock to living your true purpose? Today's guest, Tremaine Wills, is a financial planner, business owner, and 2 times Investopedia top 100 advisor who has made it her mission to help individuals and entrepreneurs escape financial stress and build lasting wealth. In this episode, she'll share how to take control of your finances, eliminate debt, and create a clear path to financial freedom. So I hope, if y'all was looking earlier, you see I got my book here because we can all learn some lessons. And if you've watched any of my podcast episodes, you know that I try to learn something new every day. So get your pens, get your paper, and let's get ready to dive into this conversation. Let's go. This is Hindsight the Podcast, right? So before we get into knowing all about what we can do with our money, I want you to tell us just a little bit about who you are and how you got to be so invested in learning about money and how it works.
Look, I'm loving the pun, right? Um,
it
so
just came to me, you know.
let's see how I became so invested. So long story short, right? I don't want to bore you guys with my life story, but I grew up in a low income family.
Mhm.
And honestly, I got just tired of hearing, "Do you got McDonald's money?" I just, no, I don't have McDonald's money. I still want the McDonald's though. So what is we gonna do, right? Um, and that kind of planted the seed for trying to figure out how to make money,
Mhm.
which I learned pretty quickly. I was really good at braiding hair. And so that was my little first stick at entrepreneurship. I had a braiding hustle. It was called Tame Your Mane Braids by Tremaine. And I was making really good money. Like I might owe the IRS some, but what I didn't know how to do They not listening to this. What I didn't know how to do.
They listening to every goddamn thing now. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
um, what I did not know how to do was to turn the money I was making into more money. So I would make, a couple $100s in a weekend and then blow it buying McDonald's and then some other stuff, right? And every time I wanted more money, I had to work and do something to get it. And so that kept going for maybe, about 5 or 6 years until I remember being 17 and I was doing some micro braids and my back started hurting. And I was like, oh no, I'm too young for this. There's got to be a different way. And so that's kind of what piqued my interest in, yes, I knew how to use my talent to make money, but how can I make money without my knuckles cracking and my back hurting? And I got to spend all this time and energy, to get some coins. And so I decided to go to school and study business. And then I was like, oh, there's ways to make money where I don't got to stand on my feet.
Ain't that something? Yeah.
That's what really, kind of drove that passion to learn more about how money works and figure out how to print money in your sleep, all the stuff, LLC Twitter tell you to do. But what kind of like pulled it all together was, even though I grew up in a low income family, my family was also very service oriented. So volunteering on, track teams, coaching and cheerleading programs and all the things in the community. And I would always see the coaching staff trying to figure out how to make dollars stretch. And so they would do the best they could with what they had. And so as I got through college, I started thinking, well, what would it look like if people who were service hearted and were pouring into the community actually had more money? How much more could they do? And so that's kind of where this, how do you make more money, coupled with how do we get more money to people who are doing good things, kind of navigate managing all of that well. So that was still a long story, but
no, it's a good story. It's a good story because one, it's a familiar tone. It's a familiar story, probably for entrepreneurs who go in and they have a talent and they love what they do, but when they go into your point, like your back is hurting or whatever that physical demand is on your body, it takes the joy out of what it was that you were doing initially. And for you to recognize that at 17 years old, you know what I'm saying? It's pretty phenomenal. It's pretty awesome. So I think I'm at the right space. I'm talking to the right person right now to talk about some money. I love your, was it Twitter LLC?
Yeah, LLC Twitter, yeah.
LLC Twitter, yeah, because I was just on there and this guy was like, what was he just talking about? He was saying some stuff that like was legit. Like I was like, oh, let me sign up for this course, I was
Be
like,
careful,
Lord.
look.
I know. Because they're in the business of making money with the courses. I get it. And there's no real investment in your success. So you being on the show, I'm excited because you're invested in all of our successes as we go forward in life.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about debt. Can we talk about debt first?
Yeah.
All right. So debt can feel overwhelming, right? And where do most people go wrong when trying to get out of debt? And how does financial stress impact decision making? So let's forget the financial stress. Where do most people go wrong when trying to get out of debt?
So the problem I see most often is there's no real clear path. They just know I got all this debt, I want it gone, and people just kind of start throwing money everywhere. It's like, oh, I'm put a little extra $100 here on this one and an extra $200 here, and there's no plan of attack, right?
Because that was like a strategy on LLC Twitter, I believe, where it's like, all right, if your minimum payment is $50 and put an extra $50, and that's to over time reduce the amount of interest, I guess that's, you know what I'm saying? So I think like that's just one of the things that I hear, and I just wanted to say that because I was doing that just, recently, just trying to pay some debt down. So go ahead.
So making extra payments is great, right? If you don't know anything else to do, pay above the minimum. But when we're talking about eliminating an enemy, and that's kind of how I see debt, right? If it's not making you money, it's the enemy. And so
I
when you're
love it.
talking about eliminating an enemy, you need a specific plan of attack. You don't just go into war and just
Mm,
start blasting the gun, right? It's like
mm,
we need sniper precision.
mm.
So with this strategy, it is what available resources do I have to attack this? And I deploy those assets specifically to a particular weakness, right? So let's say
Hmm.
you have 5 or 6 credit cards. Now, what most people will do is they'll put an extra 50, $100 towards each of them, which works, but it's not aggressive and it is not strategic enough so that you can see progress faster. So what we encourage is selecting either the Avalanche or the Snowball method
Yeah,
to
yeah.
pick one weak spot or one of these debts and aggressively go after it, right? So that way you can kind of track the progress and see, okay, this is going to be done by X date. And it allows you to get excited that, okay, I'm gonna have this one paid off and now I can go to the next one, right? So I think that sniper focus or that precision when you're going after attacking this enemy
Mm.
is what will allow people to get more clarity around what exactly they should do instead of, kind of just widespread. Let me just throw some resources at it.
That's fun. Hey, did you look anything up about me?
No.
Just curious. What's funny is you got me excited because you start talking about sniper precision and
Oh, wow.
defeating the enemy. I spent 20 years plus in the military, so
Wow.
yeah. So you started speaking my language. Now I'm all in. All right, let's get this op order together and let's defeat this daggone enemy.
It's the
No,
ops.
it's the ops. Absolutely, I like that. So let me ask you a question. You said the snowball or the avalanche, and you feel
Mhm.
good about paying off something, right? So do you attack the smaller ones so that you can have the emotional high from paying off one, or do you go after the elephant in the room, the bigger one, and just start aggressively attacking that one? What would be your recommendation?
So it depends.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that for people who have not had success in the past,
Hmm.
they should start with the smallest debt they have. So that way
Yeah.
they can get that quick win and start to build some momentum. But for folks who have gone through this before, and you know better, right? Let's just go ahead and take the mathematical approach and pay off the one that's costing us the most.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you go with the snowball strategy, it may not have the highest interest rate, right? And so you're accruing more interest on higher balances
Hmm.
because they're sitting there still with that high interest rate. Um, and then there's also the option to kind of mix and match, right? So if you have, and we like to do this where if you have like a handful of smaller debts that are less than $1,000, we'll knock those out. But then maybe you have a high interest rate one that
Hmm.
isn't quite the next smallest balance, but we're like, okay, you already got these wins. Pay this one off because of this high interest. Then you can start to kind of combine the two. But it all goes back to this strategy of how are we going to get you to success so that the ultimate goal is you're out of consumer debt.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you kind of touched on it a little bit. What are some of the more common misconceptions about death? Death. Good Lord. Debt. Debt. I got to put the T on it. So debt payoff strategies.
That there is only one way to do it.
Yep.
I think that sometimes we just assume that people want the snowball strategy where it's like pay off the smallest one first and then go. But there are folks
Hmm.
who are analytical who would prefer, okay, what's going to save me the most interest? And that would be a reason to choose the avalanche strategy because it will save you the most on interest, but it
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily get the first debt paid off the fastest, right? All of that's going to be contingent on the balances that you owe. Um, I think another misconception about debt is that you should continue spending on your credit cards while you're paying it off. That is not something that we recommend. And there is a there's a fine line between wanting to get the rewards points and the cash back and all that great stuff, which I love them, right? But if you are paying 20-25% interest for those
Yeah.
rewards, it's not really rewards no more. You buying free,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it really requires us to take an honest assessment of what is going to be the most beneficial way to move forward, and then have the discipline to execute.
I like it. I like it. Hey, and you mentioned the interest rates as well. Make sure that you go in and check check that out every now and again, because they send you little letters and say, hey, we're gonna boost this up. You may get a credit card with the introductory interest rate,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then it just balloons horribly. You know what I mean? So just make sure that you go out and you check those things out. Look at your paper statement or log in online. It's not readily available, so you're gonna have to go and search through it and probably find one of your statements or something like that, but make sure you check it. I looked at one the other day and it was crazy. So so that's the one that I'm going to get rid of. I mean, because you got one, it's like 11%, and I'm like, yeah, but then I looked and this one is like 30%.
Yes.
And that's the one that snuck up. I just happened to look at it because I was creating my op board. I was getting my strategy together, to your point. And I said, let me look at all these things just to see exactly where I'm at. And with
Yeah.
that, yeah, with that in my personal, just telling you what I was doing personally, can you break down the difference between the snowball and the avalanche methods
Yeah,
for debt
absolutely.
payoff? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so what you're saying is absolutely right. You sat down and you checked to see like where's my current stance, right?
Yeah.
When you are putting together this strategy, there are pieces of information that are required in order to do it well. So, of course, you need to have a list of all the creditors that you owe, right? Who is it that we need to pay back? Then you have to identify, well, what are the balances that I owe? So, down to the penny, okay? Every single cent that we owe.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have to identify, okay, well, what are my minimum payments across all of these debts? Then we have to figure out, okay, what is the interest rate on all of them? And so, to your point where you mentioned some of these platforms, finding the interest rate is like digging for treasure. It's just,
They ain't
you
gonna
wouldn't
hide it from you.
expect that it would be readily available. But that's part of why it's so easy to get trapped in credit card debt, because
Mm,
it's not in your face like, oh, look, silly, you've been paying 25% on this money. Like, they're not readily telling you you're overspending. So,
exactly.
going to look and see that all in one place, that
Mm,
right there is enough motivation for quite a few people. That's like, oh, wow, this is not good. Right. And so, just kind of laying it
yeah.
out, making sure you know exactly what information you're working with. So once you get to this place, then you kind of decide, okay, what is going to be my order of attack? The snowball method is where you list them in order from smallest to largest based on the balance. So the
Mm-hmm.
total amount that is remaining to be paid off. The avalanche method is where you're listing them in order largest to smallest interest rate. So depending on the types of balances and interest rates you have, when you list these out, those could look they can look two different ways, depending on, even if you got like some personal loans, all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And who the creditor is or the credit issuer is on these cards. So when you are looking at those two, dictating if you want to save the most on interest, you would do the avalanche method. If you are somebody who's like, okay, I want to get this first one knocked off as quickly as possible, then you probably would go with the snowball method. So either way you decide, the first step is going to be sitting down and identifying what is all the information that I need to make a good decision and put a
Mm,
strategy in place. So, and for many of us, that's the hard part, because now you got to come face to face with the
yeah.
consequences of our actions
Yeah.
and say, okay, I'm going to address this and course correct.
Yeah. That is it's hard. But it's sobering as well. And then you look at it and you're like, wow, okay, okay. But it's empowering if
Yes.
you're looking at it the right way.
Yes.
I got the information I need. Okay, this is where I'm at. Let's get it. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
It's empowering. So, okay, okay. Budgeting. What do you think about budgeting?
I think budgets are your best friend, right? The
How,
B word. The B word is your friend, okay? So before I went into financial services. I used to work for NASA in the Office of Procurement. And one of the things that I was tasked with doing was looking over some of these budgets of some of the projects that, NASA was spending money on. And so one of the projects where I was looking at the budget, they was spending millions of dollars to crash a test capsule. And so as I'm kind of thinking back on this, I'm realizing like, oh, wow, this is a budget too. It's a budget with more zeros, but it is a budget that is dictating where every dollar has to go to accomplish this mission. Right? So when you're thinking about your personal budget, you may not have $1 million monthly budget, but whatever dollar amount it is, you are accomplishing some mission. And for many of us, because we don't know what that mission is, budgeting seems pointless.
Yeah.
So when you take a step back and you say, okay, what is the point of all of this? Why do I go to work? To make money, to do anything? And decide, okay, I'm doing this because at some point I want to be able to not have to work at all. That's, a lot of us, that's what it is. We want to retire. If it's up to me, I will retire tomorrow. Right. But you kind of have to have a reason for why money needs to work better in your life so that budgeting is not such of a burden and more of a empowerment tool. So we talked about, the data from whatever's happening with your debts being empowering because it's like, okay, I can do this. The same thing happens when you get a budget that is aligned with the actual things you want out of life. And it's more than just, oh, I want, a 6-figure job and $1 million in the bank. But when it shifts to, I need to do better with my finances because I want to be able to take my kids to Europe for 2 months. Or I want to do better with my finances because I want to retire me, ma, and my mama, and whoever else, right?
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, well, how am I going to do that? The budget is the beginning of the roadmap to make it happen. So now, once you got that deep, compelling reason, all this frivolous spending you was doing, you start to rein it in because spending $90 to get 6 chicken wings from Wingstop seems stupid when some of that money could have been accelerating your ability to take the kids to Europe. So I think when we look at the budget in that way and not just a thing that we have to do, but a resource that allows us to accomplish whatever goals we want to hit, then it's like, that is my bestie. It's telling the dollars how to do their job so that one day I don't have to work anymore.
All right. That is a motivational reason why you should have yourself a bestie budget. So I like that. BB. Maybe I shouldn't say BB. But anyway.
BB, good.
Hey, but I like that. I wrote down, why do I go to work? Because from an early age, you go to work because you need to get a job and buy McDonald's, right? You said, I don't have McDonald's money.
It's Chick-fil-A money now, right?
I know. It's funny you say that because we had it was just to kind of date where we're at right now. It was Black History Month just a few weeks ago. And we had this it's not a Q&A, it was like trivia. And they were going through, and one of the questions, that's why I kind of smirked a little bit when you said it. One of the questions was, what does your mama tell you when you ask for McDonald's? And it listed the 4, and one was, do you have McDonald's money, right? So that is absolutely the truth. So that was why you got to work. You wanted to get your own clothes, your suit, your Nikes, whatever it is. But as you get older, I mean, it really has to be just more than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And finding out, why do I go to work, I think is a really good question for anyone to ask. Like, why am I doing this? Right? And it can motivate you too. 'Cause sometimes you hate your job. Sometimes you love your job, right? But it can give you that motivation if you just sit down and just think about, what is it? One other thing, and then I'm going to ask you a question. I apologize. One other thing, where you were talking about the 2 weeks to Europe, I was listening to this one gentleman, and I can't remember his name, but he was talking about how each year should have a culminating event. Each year. So if I talk about 2008 or 2018, I should be able to say 2018, I took my kids to Europe for 2 weeks. 2009, I did this. 2010, I did this. Like that one culminating event that you planned and you strategically budgeted for and you accomplished it. Because we get caught up in the rut of just work, 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 work,
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
work, buy some tennis, buy some rims, buy a new, whatever it is, right? Just frivolous things that amount to nothing. It's just a right now fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't really accomplish anything. So anyway, what do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I love the idea of a
Yeah,
culminating event. I hadn't heard it phrased like that.
yeah,
But I think that is definitely something for people who are just kind of getting started at this to aspire to.
yeah.
Um, Especially, if you have school age children where maybe throughout the year it doesn't make sense, but in the summer, that could be the
Mm,
thing that they're like, we did this great thing, right? You come back to school and you're so excited.
memories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it kind of all goes back to like, what memories are you creating? Because the things are gonna fade away, right?
Mm,
I remember just getting so many different just gifts and things I bought myself, and I'm like, I don't even know where that's at no more, right? But the memories,
oh, I
those
know.
they hold weight. I remember the first family vacation we went on, and I'm like, man, that was a good time.
Ain't it?
That was a
Ain't
good
it?
time, right? And so I think like that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
when you start to think about, why you go to work and what you want your money to do, it gives context and meaning to what our dollars are supposed to create. It's not there to purchase stuff. Like we need stuff, but I think a more fulfilling life is rich in memories.
Mm, I love it. I love it. All right, so now we're we're in the flowery, feel good. Now,
My bad.
no. Now we're 2, 3, 4 months into this thing. How can someone stay motivated when debt payoff feels like it's just too hard? It's too long a road.
That's good.
What?
That's good. The problem is we're trying to stay motivated. You
Mm-hmm.
can't
Mm-hmm.
motivate yourself into a lifestyle change, right? This
Yeah.
has to be something that becomes a discipline. It's
Yeah.
just like the New Year's resolutions where everybody's in the gym the first 6 weeks. Everybody who was in there, at the end of the year, see all these new people on their machines, they pissed off, but come the middle of February, the new folks gone again because the motivation, the excitement wore off. But the folks
Yeah.
who are disciplined and committed, right,
Mm,
they're still in the routine. And so if you're on a debt payoff journey or a wealth building journey, it got to be more than motivation. It has to become
mm-hmm.
a part of what you do, right? So when you
Yeah.
wake up, you get dressed, you brush your teeth, you eat breakfast, you do all the things, right? Managing your money well is part of all the things that we do that define the life we're going to live. So it's not I do it when I'm motivated. No, it's you do it because this is a part of who you are.
Mm. All right, you touched on this one really quick, so you can touch on it a little bit, and then a little bit quicker. You said don't while you're paying off your credit cards, don't use your credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
What other financial habits do you recommend to prevent falling back into debt?
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
So, as somebody who has paid off credit cards, racked up credit card bills again, and then paid them off again, the problem I faced was I just was excited that it was gone, but I didn't have a how do I not fall into the same trap again strategy, right? So, when we are swiping our credit cards, oftentimes it's because we want to live outside of our means, right? So you may want to spend more money on clothes or travel or experiences or whatever than your actual means support. And so you have to get surgical with, okay,
Mm-hmm.
how did I even get into this credit card debt before? So that way I don't repeat this same mistake. So, of course, while you're going through the process of not using credit cards, while you're paying them off, equally as important is, okay, when this debt is gone, how do I now manage my finances so that it doesn't come back ever again? And so part of that looks like, okay, if I'm going to use credit cards again, I'm paying them off in full every week, every 2 weeks, or before the statement is due, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, not only are you not building up the debt again, now you're using them smart and you're not incurring interest. So that's probably the biggest one, is make sure that you don't fall into the overspending habit again. Another thing that we like to talk about is sleeping on large purchases. So just because you have a $25,000 credit card limit does not mean immediately when you decide or when you see that something is available to you, you swipe that card and get it. Right? We don't do impulse buys anymore. We take a night and we think about it. And if in the morning you still want it, okay, what's the strategy for getting this paid off? No matter what it is, right? It could be, you're investing in a business. You might just want some luxury thing, whatever the case is. Be confident.
But what if it's gone in the morning? I need it now. And if I wait, it may not be there.
So my question is, what do you absolutely need that you cannot wait 24 hours for? That must be paid with debt.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, the answer is nothing, right? Because if you absolutely needed it, you better have the cash for it and go get it, right? Food, shelter, water, like that kind of stuff. Okay, we should have cash available to handle that. But if we're talking about like, oh, this thing is on sale, I'm gonna lose 20% if I don't get it tonight. You don't need it. You don't need it. So
you know what's funny? I don't mean to cut you off. If I see something, so I may see something. This is me. I'm a cheapster, I think, at times. But it's not that I'm cheap. It's more like if I see this camera that I'm looking into right now, and it's normally $1,000, and then I see someone had a 20 or 30% off sale, and I miss it, I can't buy it, unless it's 20 or 30% off. I just can't do it. And to your point, I didn't need it. You feel me? So I didn't like if I see something like that and something as trivial as that motivates or kind of takes me away from it, I didn't really need it in the first place. And I find myself not getting things. I find myself going to the store, and to your point, I'll have a cart and I'm walking around and I'm looking, I'm like, that's kind of impulse. That's nice. Didn't really need it. That wasn't what I came in for, right? That's really nice. And as I walk around, I'm thinking. And as I get closer and closer to when I'm going to make this purchase, I start taking stuff out the cart because I don't need it. You feel me? So my point is, as part of that discipline, like you still got to fight it. It's like anything else. You still have to fight it. But using the tools that Tremaine is laying out on here and we're talking about today, that helps you to win that fight, to defeat that enemy, when you're going in there, because the whole how the United States is, and probably a lot of other countries, it's all about marketing. It's all about getting your dollars. So you got to be smart and you got to have your armor on when you get out there in this battle of consumerism or whatever. So anyway, those are my 2 cents, and that was a long story. So
no, that was good. I love the idea of like, you got to have your armor on. Like when you open the door to leave your house, $200 just like falls out your wallet. And it's like, the longer you stay outside, the more messaging is coming towards you because everybody wants to take your money out your pocket. So you're absolutely right with like, we're inundated with everybody just wanting us to buy. And so
I love it.
The more we stay armored up and stay focused on, what is actually important, you can buy some things along the way, right? Nobody's saying you can't have nice things.
Right.
But the nice things shouldn't reduce your ability to have a great quality of life.
Yeah. I agree. All right. So you mentioned earlier your back was hurting while you was doing micro braids. Was that your personal aha moment that changed the way you viewed financial freedom? Or did you have another moment down the road, like when you hit business class, you was like, oh my God, I didn't even notice, right? Like, what was your personal aha moment that changed the way you viewed financial freedom?
I think it was like a incremental build. The initial aha was the back pain, but then building on it was the exposure to concepts. And I'm like, oh, this what they teaching people? I did not know, right? And just the having just like your brain exposed to new stuff where it's like, why y'all didn't tell me this 10 years ago?
I know. I know.
And it's kind of like you get upset, like y'all been holding out.
Yeah. All this time wasted. And that's on a lot of things, man. Invest in your education. That could be going to school. That could be just reading a book.
Yeah.
Invest in just learning something new every day. I just want to plug that as well.
Yeah. But that it was a incremental build.
Okay.
And I think that with each new piece of information, it also shifted my identity a little bit, right? Because as you start to intake new information, if it sticks, typically it changes how you operate. And so I went from, buying all the crap to how does this improve my quality of life, and how is this going to help me use this in a way where my life is improved, but also the people I'm connected to. So that's kind of what my build looked like. It was more than just, oh, I know how to invest now. Oh, I got to teach my cousin how to do this. Right. So like, and it's not just, it wasn't just about me anymore.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And that's the last thing about debt. Then we're going to go into some strategies. I hope you can give me some strategies on investing. Cause that's just a lot, right? Just to say, hey, how do I invest better? Right. There's so many things you could do, but you can lead us, lead us to the water. It's up to us to drink a little bit. But if someone is listening today and they're struggling with debt, feeling hopeless, what's a first step that they should take, like right now?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
They should make a budget.
Budget.
Because when you make the budget, that's going to tell you how much money is available to attack the debt, right? So of course we want to make the minimum payments on our debt, but we also want to know, okay, after I cover all my essentials, how much more money can I put towards getting this debt paid off?
Yeah.
Because just the minimum amount is not going to cut it. So once you make the budget and let's say you have an extra $500 a month to put towards paying off the debt above your minimum payments, then you can select that debt payoff strategy. Is it going to be Snowball or Avalanche, right? But the hardest part is sitting down and saying, okay, how have I been spending? It might hurt a little bit, but on the other side of this, it's going to feel so good. So that would be my recommendation: is sit down, make the budget, figure out how much money you have available to put towards paying off your debt, and then choose your debt payoff strategy, and now execute.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Investing. I don't have any good questions to ask you about investing. So right now you're just going to have to tell me, say I'm me and you're you. Hey, Tremaine, I heard you are good at investing. Like, what should I do? Like, what's something I should do as a novice, as a beginner? What should I know about investing?
Yeah, so I'm going to have 700 questions for anybody who asks me this.
I know, I don't.
But for to kind of give like general base setting for everybody, right? Because I think that's the hard part about investing, because you literally could ask 20 people something and 20 of them could say something different. But what I will say is that every investment has to have a purpose, right? Is this money being invested to use for retirement? Is this money being invested to use for college education? Is it being invested to use for healthcare savings in the future? Like, what is the purpose? Once you identify what the purpose of the investment is, the type of account it needs to be in to get the appropriate or best tax considerations, and then the investments that are actually inside of the account can be dictated. So That's
Okay.
why it's so hard for so many people, because they're like, I don't know. I just know I need to invest, right?
Yeah.
And so if
Yeah.
you're just getting started and you don't know anything about anything, the best place to start is starting with investing for retirement. And so figuring out, okay, how much longer would I work? More than just till tomorrow, right? So
Mm-hmm.
is retirement 10, 20, 30, 40 years away? And that's going to help you dictate how aggressive you need to invest. If retirement is a long ways away, you can afford to have a portfolio that is a whole bunch of stocks and growth opportunities. But if retirement is in like 5 years, then you may not be so aggressive, and you may only have bonds and, income accounts that are going to bring you money back. So that's probably the baseline for people, is to identify what's the purpose of the investments.
I like that.
And
Yeah.
if you don't know what, start with retirement, because everybody needs to retire. Even if you love your job, you want to be retirement optional. And we can't guarantee that Social Security is going to be around. So you want to take it on yourself to start setting money aside so that when you decide you want to stop, you can. And it doesn't necessarily have to be 67 or 70 or 72. Retirement is when your bank account says, hey, you don't got to work. But if you ain't putting no money in that account, retirement might be like, I don't know if that's happened for you, friend. So
yeah. All right. I appreciate that. That is great advice. I appreciate that. So I asked you a lot of questions about debt, and thank you so much for illuminating that topic.
yeah.
I asked you one question, an overall thing on investing. So I asked you a few questions. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you like to talk about? Any books or conferences or speaking engagements or just anything, or some advice that you like to give to the listeners?
I would say we need to be aggressive about making money. So we talk a lot about budgeting, and we talk a lot about paying off debt, and we talk a lot about investing. And all of that is great. But if you don't have no money, the extent to which you can do any of it is drastically reduced.
Yeah.
So the way that we build wealth is by having discretionary income to invest. But if there's no discretionary income, meaning if there's no money left over after you pay your bills, you pay your debt payments, you eat, maybe you go outside for a few minutes, because not too long is too expensive. But if there's no money left over, then there's not an opportunity to build wealth. And the way that we address that is by going to make more money. So my advice, especially in this environment, would be you need to find ways to increase your income and make that a top priority. Yes, get out of debt. Yes, start investing. But investing is more fun when it's not just $25 a week, right?
Yeah.
That's good to start. It's a great place to be. But when you're able to put more money in, that compounding interest applies to that full balance. So it becomes a more exciting thing to do when it doesn't just feel like this is all I have.
Right. Wow. Okay. So, what do you recommend? Hey, boss, I need more money. Side hustles.
That's one.
Yeah.
So, I'm a business owner, and I believe
there you
that
go.
entrepreneurship is one of
There
I won't say fastest. It's one of the best pathways to build wealth, because you can print money when you have a great product or service. And it's amazing what happens when you are incredibly motivated, right? So if you sit down and you have this design of what you want your finances to do for you, but you find that, in order to make this happen, I need an extra $150,000 a year, right? Well, if you're already making six figures, going to your boss and saying, hey, I need to make 2.5 times this. It's kind of
it ain't gonna work.
right? You might get a 3% raise. Maybe, right?
Yeah.
But that may not all come from W-2 income. Now, should you be advocating for raises and promotions? Absolutely. Especially if you have the receipts, right? Get paid what you are worth. But also, if you have a skill set that can be monetized, having a small business on the side is another great way to generate additional income, right? You can also learn to trade. Options trading is a way that many people are learning to generate more income. So there's literally thousands of ways to make money. You have to just decide what is the pathway for me. And so that can be dictated by the time you have available, the situation you have with your lifestyle. There's so many different factors that go into it, but making more income should be a priority for folks who are not already financially independent.
I like it. I like it. That's great. That's great. And what happens is, you said you sit down, you figure out what it is that you need. I need an extra or whatever, right? But what happens also is, just like we talked about the debt, it's empowering because now you have
Mm-hmm.
a challenge. Now
Mm-hmm.
you understand what you need to do, what the
Yeah.
stakes are. You
Yeah.
have motivation and purpose and direction. That's some of that
Yeah.
stuff they teach you in the military, right? And you can go after it. And you may not get it right the first time, right? But you still have your destination that you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to get to, right? All right, that didn't work. Dust that off. Let's go to the next one, right? And
Yep.
figure it out. And it keeps you in track, and it stops. And I'm going to loosely tie this in with the frivolous spending, with the, getting on the internet or watching TV all night and just doing these things that aren't going to make you money. You know what I'm saying? You start to get creative because we are
Mm-hmm.
creative at heart. We're going to make it work some kind of way. We may not always be smart as hell, but we all are creative. So
Yeah.
I like it. Thank you so much. That's great insight. Um, where should we look for you? Where should the listeners look to find out more about Tremaine and the wonderful work that you're doing?
Yeah. So I'm like Visa, I'm everywhere. Every single social media platform. It's at Tremaine Wills is where you can find me. If you're interested in working with my firm, our website is www.mindovermoney.net. We specialize in working with entrepreneurs and business owners that want to print money, right? And you need a
Mm,
partner that understands what does that look like to build personal wealth while you are an entrepreneur.
yeah. Mind over money?
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. What do you do? What does mind over money do? You just gave a brief one, but okay, I got a friend. I got a friend right now. They have a small business. It's becoming overwhelming.
Mm.
Do you help them to, and it's not the work, it's the preparation, it's the anticipation, it's the belief in the payoff, and it's just not happening as quickly as you like it to happen, or there's some things that you probably need to pivot in, or whatever. Is that something that you work with entrepreneurs in with?
So we are the financial strategy for
Okay.
entrepreneurs, right? So we have a full service financial firm. We offer obviously investment advice, portfolio management, financial planning, but we also offer bookkeeping and accounting and advisory for small business owners, tax
Mm.
preparation, tax planning, insurance. So anything that's related to the coins, right? That's
I
what we
got
do.
you.
And what we found is that for a lot of small business owners, who haven't quite hit six figures yet, they
Yeah.
get stuck trying to grow their business because they don't know their numbers. But it's like,
Mm.
you need support to hire the accountant so that you can understand your numbers. And I'm like, guys, I need you to make this investment, because once you have the plan on paper,
Yeah.
an entrepreneur that has a plan is going to excel every single
Yeah.
time. It's that we don't have the plan and we are out
Yeah.
here swinging and missing over and over again, instead of just letting somebody give you the roadmap. Like, hey, you need this, 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 and this. Go execute.
Mm. I like it. All right, so now you got it. Get out there and mind over money.
Mind over money.
Because when you say mind over mind over matter, anyway, it throws me off. I like it. Mind over money.
Mhm.
Okay, what an incredible conversation with Tremaine Wills. Today we tackled the realities of debt, the emotional and financial toll it takes, and strategies to break free. Whether it's a snowball or avalanche method, smart budgeting, or building habits that lead to lasting wealth. And Tremaine reminded us that financial freedom isn't just about money, it's about creating the life that you truly want. And that is important. Ask that question. What am I working for? You know what I'm saying? as soon as you said it, I'm thinking, what am I working for? Like I was asking myself that question internally. But you do that. I think it's an important question. It'll help you align your purposes. But thank you so much, Tremaine, for for sharing your expertise and mission to help people escape financial stress and to build wealth.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I was really excited. I told you that in the beginning. You gave me some insightful advice, and also you validated some of the things that I've been doing already, right? Just to tackle. So I just want to get it. You start getting gray hairs and things like that, and yeah, it's like I don't want to carry this with me for too long because you can only make if you're physically doing something or if you're working for someone else, you have a clock that's ticking.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You're not going to keep making money because they're just going to hire somebody younger and better. So, entrepreneur plug, get out there, figure out what it is that you like to do and make it work. Call Tremaine up and make sure the money matters. Mind over money. And anyone else, if you found value in this episode, I know I did. Make sure to subscribe to Hindsight the Podcast so that you never miss an episode. And if you're on a journey to financial freedom, call Tremaine. And then also share this with someone who needs to hear it. And until next time, keep pushing forward. The best days are ahead. Thank you. All right, I got to get up now because I gotta hit the stop button over here. Hey, thanks for joining me here on Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And while I have you here, why don't you take your mouse, go over and click on that subscribe button? No, not right there. Over to the right. No, down, right there. Boom. Thank you. Now, thank you for subscribing to Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones.